You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun. We're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Well, howdy doody, everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul.
And I'm Rob. And this is episode 641. Thanks for hanging out with us. Glad you're here. Hope that all is well with you and your business is growing. You're improving in your flight. You're loving drones. And we certainly thank you for spending a few minutes with us. We have an interesting question today.
We have a great question today about our friends up north, the Canadians. You want to know an interesting fact about the Canadians, Rob?
I would love to.
The most angry Canadians all work in Border Patrol and Customs.
Really?
No.
Why would you say that?
It's the only country I've ever gotten to where someone gives me a dirty look every single time I walk through customs. Every time I go through customs in America or even Mexico, when they were asking for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for all the camera gear that I brought in.
I think you've just been unlucky.
Every single time I've gone through that border.
When I go to Canada, I've encountered some pretty nice people.
Oh, every single Canadian besides the customs agent has been amazing.
So maybe they've been trained to be tough.
I'm sure they have.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah. I just say less with them. Literally, like, normally I'm like all super chipper, nice, and like excited to talk to these people because some of them are actually really interesting.
Yeah.
There was actually a Customs and Border Patrol agent in Phoenix when I came back from Mexico, and he actually knew of Drone U and had a story about his son and everything. It was really cool.
It's always fun.
Yeah, and he's like, so what drone do you have in there? And I was like, Inspire 1 Z3. He's like, oh gosh.
He knew.
Yeah.
Baby.
So anyway, and he was like cool with it. He's like, awesome. Did you enjoy your flying down there? I was like, yep, sure did. So
very cool. Well, they have had some pretty significant changes in their drone laws.
Not happy.
In the last few months. Yeah, I don't know that. So the people that we've heard from Canada are not happy as well.
Well, and what's really interesting too, and I think this is actually a really important point to hit, and I hope the FAA is listening to this particular show because it also goes to show that the FAA's enforcement is actually may be the right way to go, even though I've been kind of critical of it. And here's why I say that. Canada has released these new essential laws, if that makes sense, and it all is focused around getting a special flight operations certificate, and the amount of information and detail in those certificates is quite lengthy. And it's quite restrictive. In fact, I have only heard of one foreigner getting an SFOC to operate in Canada, and his name is Saunders out of Phoenix, Arizona, and he got the SFOCs to fly out of Vancouver area.
Interesting.
So, and I know there may be one or two others, myself included, that have gotten SFOCs, but it is a very, very difficult process. And it's very, very frustrating because, a lot of my friends are from Canada. Chad, Bryce, Rob, Ulrich, by the way. A lot of those guys live in Canada, and a lot of those guys have drones.
Sure.
And you ask them what the drone law is, and like these are very educated, like well-off people. None of them could tell you what drone law is. None of them. And like essentially if you're flying for fun, you're supposed to have your name and your phone number and your address on the drone. I haven't seen a single drone in Canada by a Canadian citizen that has that. So anyway, I want to go back for a second and talk about why I think it's important to discuss enforcement because some of my friends, and we actually have some Drone U students in Canada, have been trying to go about drone operations the right way. And a common theme that they have been telling me, and this is what I've heard, is that oftentimes the Canadian government is going after people who are trying to do it right and letting a lot of the rogue pilots off and like never going after them kind of thing.
Unintentionally, I would think. That sounds like a systemic issue.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And I'm not trying to say anyone's being nefarious here, but I'm trying to say that their enforcement policy has created an environment where people know that if you're a rogue operator, the chances of success are higher than attempting to do it right. So that's why I think actually the way the FAA is doing their whole compliance first philosophy is actually like very intelligent.
Sure.
Because what it negates is that we're not going to go after people that, they know about Part 107, they have their Part 107 license, but maybe they're not following a particular rule. We're going to tell them they can't do that. We're going to tell them why. We're going to educate them. And then if they do that again, then we're going to slap them on the wrist. And I think that's actually admirable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they are purposefully ignoring the people that are flying illegally, only to spend their resources to go after the people that are not doing it quite right, but are trying to do it illegally, that's insanity.
Well, that's essentially what 3 separate people have said. That's why I said it on the show, because it meets the rule of 3s.
Therefore, it is. We never did do a question, by the way. We actually have a question.
Oh, well, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, you want to play it now?
We just kind of got rolling, or we can just talk about what the question was. I live in the northern part of the United States. Does my FAA license apply in Canada? Clearly the answer is no, and so that just kind of...
hold on.
Oh,
okay,
I'm holding.
so this is a very, very big point that I just learned recently, and I'm glad that you mentioned, is my FAA license valid? First of all, it's not an FAA license. That's a big point, okay? Number 2, it's a remote pilot certificate, not a license. Why is that important? Because it means ICAO does not think you have the right to fly in every country because you have an FAA RPIC certificate.
Right on.
So now, do you know what ICAO is?
Tell everybody.
ICAO is the International Civil Aviation Organization. So essentially, ICAO is the reason if you have a Cessna license, Rob, and you want to fly to Canada like Anthony Cools, you can. And as long as you know the airspace and their approach patterns and everything, you're good. Your license as an American is valid in Canada.
Cool. Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, why isn't it like that for drone pilots?
Well, I mean, you could make arguments that you're...
Would you like to make one?
No, I'm
would
not that.
I would like to.
Well,
take
because
the rug
you
from
are
under
physically in the airplane and you're going from one place to the other, as opposed to flying sort of locally with your drone. It's a completely different animal. I'm not saying it shouldn't be that way, but you can see the distinction between the two. It's not that hard.
I'm not arguing the distinction. I'm just arguing the thought process.
Okay.
So
cool.
I respectfully disagree. And I think...
To what?
Everything.
What are you disagreeing with?
No, I going back to the nitty gritty, if our RPIC certificates, had an ICAO representation, I believe that the FAA would have to change the certificate to a pilot's license, and then ICAO would be cool with it.
That makes sense. But that probably isn't going to happen anytime soon, because all of these countries are coming up with their own unique drone laws. And so if there's some pretty distinct differences from one country to another, the likelihood of those coming together through that process are probably small.
And now you know why I think the drone federalism bill is a really bad idea.
Oh, yeah, because now that just takes it to a whole nother level just within the United States, which is... Yeah, please don't do that, people.
Yeah, this is just lawmakers sticking their hands in things that they don't understand.
Absolutely. Which, not that that's new, right?
You think they learn from their mistakes, though?
Well,
awkward
my 14-year-old does.
Well done, Jacob.
But
well done.
These people don't seem to.
Yeah, it's actually, we don't need to discuss politics. We all know that there are many issues with that. And I honestly love Part 107. I think it's a great thing. I still think that there's a lot of clarity, though, with Part 107 that needs to happen. I know the FAA is trying to expand Part 107, and they may be, running into some issues with that. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Very excited for the years to come. Being a pilot is awesome. Going back to the rules, though, in Canada, if you're flying for fun, there are minimums that you're supposed to meet as far as distances from people, places, and things. Also, you're supposed to have your drone marked. There are certain rules you are supposed to follow. And if you want to fly commercially, hopefully we'll have a class here soon on how to apply for one of those licenses, because it's extremely difficult. And in all honesty, like, the hardest part about it is not even the drone permit, it's the work visa. Unless, so for example, with one of my prior boating clients, because the company was based out of America and I was being paid from America, I didn't need a work visa.
Interesting.
That's what they told me at the border. And I was like, I lucked out. And they're like, yes, you did.
Very
because
interesting.
otherwise you'd be in trouble.
But you probably, well, I don't know, there would have been somewhere that could have been figured out, but it was probably obscure and maybe kind of hidden in the minutia somewhere that was possible. I wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways,
I think that answers the question, though. And I think there's also a lot of insight into that answer. And I know we didn't even play the question, but I just got super excited, Rob. Because flying in Canada is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's very, very sparsely populated.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought New Mexico was like,
right.
Like no one
Lots
was
of
here.
land without people
what's
on
the
it.
word? Barren. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Oh, it is beautiful in Canada.
It really is.
Man.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope that answers your questions. We are looking to do more on how to apply for SFOCs. If you're interested in the drone law in multiple countries, as Drone U members, you do have access to the Where in the World page, where not only you can find out drone laws by country, but how to apply and all the information therein, on top of finding other pilots in the Drone U community that may be already operating in that area, which does make things 100 times easier.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
If there was, and I almost did this, by the way, if there was a Canadian pilot, for example, a drone licensed pilot, and I wanted to go up there and fly, I could essentially hire her company for my job and then fly as her watching over my shoulder, and everything's peachy. That's what I was told. They're like, you do have that option. I'm like, well, let me see if I can pull this off in time. No, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, but that person has to be there with you.
Yes,
similar
the whole
to
time.
just the way it is here.
Yeah, the whole time. So,
Which,
and sometimes you can get really cool people, and sometimes you get really crappy people.
You know how you can screen them, though? Because I think a really cool person is going to be really reasonable with what they're going to ask for monetarily to do that with you. It's like that's a good screening tool. Just based on the experience that you just had in Arizona, that kind of worked out. It was a cool guy. It was a reasonable cost, right?
I want to define reasonable cost, because there are probably some people who are going to listen to the show thinking that what you're saying actually means something different than what you're saying. So we originally had someone who said that we could use their authorization for $500 a day, plus they wanted to shoot footage as if it was like their client. And I told them, like, well, you can't put any names of the clients in there. Like, you can't pretend like, like you got the job. Like there's a lot of politics in this particular job. And the person was like, oh yeah, blah, blah. But once someone shoots footage, their interpretation of what they can do with it, unless it's written down, tends to change. And we had someone else, Gary Oglesby, who was an awesome guy, super awesome guy. He had a Class Bravo authorization. He was there with us the whole day, and he charged us $200 and took pictures for us, which he didn't even like say he was going to do. And the pictures are amazing. I've got to put them up on Facebook. They're so good. Like, really, they're really cool.
And then he graciously said, use them for whatever you want to use them for.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
And he didn't even say, like, watermark me or anything. Like, that was really cool. Like, honestly, I will be working with you again, Mr. Oglesby.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I mean, though. What you just described, kind of the not as nice person trying to charge not exorbitant, but more than what was really market value.
It was definitely exorbitant, because have we ever paid more than $300 to ever use an authorization?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't even know anyone in the community who has. And I had told that person that, and they were like, well, I still think if you're willing to pay $500, I'm going to charge $500. I'm like, well, I'm going to find someone else then. So there's always a way. Yeah, there's always
to find
a
better situation.
True.
It's got to
and
keep
you know
digging.
what? It's a good business lesson, and I don't think anyone was trying to be nefarious. And in fact, we're going to end up working with that person for something else.
Okay.
Where the money is valid, but not for that particular airspace authorization.
Yeah, which is another good lesson. Don't burn bridges. Say, okay, it's cool. We're going to go a different direction this time.
And there's no reason to be mad or angry either. Like, hey, we're working with someone else, and it just works out better that way. And I'm still looking forward to working with you on X, which I told him.
Yeah.
And he, wanted more details about what dates we were going and everything, and I didn't respond because I've noticed in the drone industry there's a lot of very vindictive people.
That's too bad.
It is too bad.
Probably not unique to the drone industry.
No, I think it's just
humanity.
Yeah.
It's pretty much humanity.
Yeah, so
good and bad.
Give people the benefit of the doubt. Patience equals profit, and relationships are everything. And that's your 3 business core values. I don't know. Just follow those rules and you should be in good shape. But that is going to do it for us today. If you aren't a Drone U member and you go out and you go flying, and sometimes you're a little nervous about flying, you're a little scared about flying, let me tell you, there is information and education out there that can take that feeling away and turn that fear into confidence. And this is something I keep hearing in testimonials, Rob. So if you're ever fearful when you go out flying, you've got to become a member of the Drone U community and check out some of the classes in there, because the depth of our information is deeper than anywhere else, any other drone school. And I know that because now I've systematically gone through all the other drone schools, and there's a lot of people copying our content. That's a joke. But anyway, that being said, I invite you, and yeah, I guess imitation, what do they say? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Exactly.
So, yeah, check it out, guys, because I think it'll really help you. And if you want to feel better about flying in different environments and places, it's really going to help you out. Check it out, thedroneu.com. And guys, thank you again for supporting us and listening. Oh, and by the way, I met a fan when I was out at the Sloan Park Field filming that job.
Yeah.
And she was a sweetheart. And it was just so nice to see her and meet a fan and
That's
really
cool.
just, some fans are really cool. Some fans are going to get really hateful emails from Sarah soon.
Oh my.
No, someone sent something they shouldn't have sent that was very, very inappropriate. And
Yes,
don't let the fandom go too far.
I don't know why it is. Paul gets all these kinds of emails and connections.
Yeah.
Maybe
What would Jana say if you got that video that I got yesterday?
Who gives a crap? Like, it's meaningless.
Yeah. Sarah was like, why would someone send that? Like,
and that is a very valid question. It's just bizarre. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It's not even worth mentioning on the show.
No.
It's weird, period. And on that bombshell, that's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul.
And my name is Rob.
And you're watching Ask Drone U.